Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We're just going to take a few moments to do a couple of audio checks, so please bear with us as we wait for a few more attendees to join on before we begin. Everyone is on mute, and all of the presenters will be unmuted upon their presentation. So bear with us as we do a couple of audio checks, and we will begin shortly. Adrian Bakari, can you just confirm? I have unmuted you. If you can just check to make sure we can hear you.
Hi, this is Adrian Bakari.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Correct.
Shauna, could you just confirm that we can hear you?
Hi, this is Joshana.
Perfect. Thank you. Bridget Casher, can you just confirm that we can hear you? Bridget Casher. Okay, no worries. We can move on with the next one and just check on her in just a bit.
Kelly, it's Amy.
Yes.
Bridget did have her microphone green and then it went red. So just letting you know that.
Yes, that was me. I unmuted her.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, Kathy, if you want to go ahead and begin.
Meeting. In years past, we have traveled throughout our 30 council footprint to hold in-person governance meetings where board members, leadership, our volunteers, delegates, and our Girl Scouts could gain a bigger picture of what is happening across our council. For those who could not attend in person, we also offered a webinar format. This year, due to COVID-19, we are unable to host in-person governance meetings, but we are determined to proceed with as many of our regularly scheduled meetings as possible. And so we are proud to offer our first ever entirely virtual spring governance meeting. As we move through tonight with hundreds of you on the webinar, I thank you for your patience with the technology, and I thank you for your grace as we all move through this together. Thank you for your time tonight, for attending, and for making Girl Scouts a priority in your lives. I hope that you and your loved ones are all safe and well. Tonight we have a very full agenda, as you can see from the slide, including presentations by some of our board members as well as executive staff from GSHPA. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sorry to say that we will not be able to have any of our Girl Scouts present present the colors during the color guard ceremony tonight. But I know that each of us has wonderful memories of how professionally our Girl Scouts have done this across the council in the past. As we say the pledge and recite the Girl Scout promise together, I hope that your own memories of color guard come to mind. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. And now, with our right hands raised in the Girl Scout sign, let us recite our Girl Scout promise. On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country, to help people at all times, and to live by the Girl Scout law. At this time, I would like to virtually introduce our board of directors to remind you of their positions and the 6 committees where they also serve. Our GSHPA officers include our Vice Chair, Debbie Kozlowski, a member of the Executive Committee and a member of the Finance and Audit Committee. Our Secretary, Joshana McLeod, She is also a member of the Executive Committee and the Chair of the Fund Development Committee. Our Treasurer, Bridget Kasher, is also a member of the Executive Committee and a member of the Finance and Audit Committee. In addition to our officers, we have members at large. Our board members at large are Lynn Bachstein, a member of the Strategic Planning Committee; Karen Best, a member of the Fund Development Committee; Anthony Billett, a member of the Property Committee; Robin Emmerich, a member of the Fund Development Committee; Stacey Irwin, the Chair of the Volunteer Recognition and Appreciation Committee and a member of the Board Development Committee; Betsy Kiefer, the Chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, a member of the Executive Committee and of the Board Development Committee; Darren Russ, the Chair of the Strategic Planning Committee; Dan Schaefer, a member of the Audit and Finance Committee; Nancy Tooley, a member of the Volunteer Recognition and Appreciation Committee; Deborah Vereen, a member of the Executive Committee and the Chair of the Board Development Committee; and Adrian Vicari, a member of the Executive Committee and the Chair of the Property Committee. Many thanks to all of our board members who volunteer so much of their time to GSHPA to provide oversight and strategic guidance to the Council. As you know, Girl Scouts USA is a congressionally chartered nonprofit and, pursuant to its governing documents, has a governance meeting every 3 years. Both GSUSA and GSHPA are delegate-run organizations. These are our national delegates and alternates who were elected to represent GSHPA during the triennial meeting in Orlando. Thank you. I know how disappointed you must be, as we all are, that the in-person meeting and convention activities have been canceled. The National Board of Directors has voted to hold the business portion of the meeting virtually because of the important issues that need to be decided. You and your fellow delegates will be deliberating and voting on 6 proposals and electing the National Board. Regardless of the meeting format, what remains a constant is that Girl Scout delegates continue to drive our democracy. You will be hearing more about the details of the virtual meeting as we get closer to October. Please note that GSUSA will refund all registrations in full, 100%, for the National Council session, the GIRL 2020, and other convention-related events and activities that you may have purchased directly through GSUSA. At the local level, other councils across the country who hold their annual meetings in May, as we once did, are now also scheduling virtual annual meetings. Our own GSHPA annual meeting is scheduled for September. Although we do not anticipate there will be a need to hold our meeting virtually, what we have learned from this pandemic is that it's unpredictable. Accordingly, we will be doing some contingency planning in the event that there is a need for a virtual annual meeting. Our local delegates should expect to hear more in May about GSHPA council level governance, to include opportunities for delegate training and to learn more about the governance process. Tonight, you will all learn about how GSHPA has pivoted and is pivoting to virtual during this pandemic. We're looking forward to what the next version of our council will be. You will hear more about membership later tonight, but we know we must continue to retain and grow our membership. You will also hear more about our virtual programming and how that has enabled us to offer programming to girls across the council in a way that we have not done before. We know we must continue to offer virtual programming and expand it once we are beyond this pandemic by finding additional funding and digital program partners to support these initiatives. And we, like so many other small businesses and nonprofits, will need to review our financial models and adapt. During our most recent Board of Directors meeting, the board voted to establish a task force led by our Strategic Planning Committee to create a 1-year post-COVID-19 recovery plan. That plan will address how GSHPA can and must grow in view of the lessons we've learned from this pandemic. At this time, I'm going to turn the microphone over to our treasurer, Bridget Kasher, to discuss our Small Business Administration loans. then to the chair of our Volunteer Recognition and Appreciation Committee, Stacey Irwin, to discuss how we are improving volunteer recognition. Then to our Property Committee Chair, Adrian Vicari, to discuss property benchmarks in light of the impact of COVID-19. And then to our Fund Development Committee Chair, Jashana McLeod, to discuss our current fund development efforts. Now to Bridget Cashin.
Bridget, you're all set and ready to go. We're going to move on to Stacey Irwin in hopes of getting Bridget to sign on in just a little bit. Stacey Irwin, you are unmuted and ready to present.
Great, thank you. So Volunteer Appreciation Month is April, so thank you to each of you for your time and service to our council, and most importantly, our girls and young women. So council has the following appreciation projects in place. Thank you calls to all council volunteers coming up in the next few weeks. Digital kudo boards emailed to all service unit level volunteers with personalized notes. Social media volunteer highlights and thank yous shared throughout April. Numeral guard pins with individualized thank you cards provided to each service unit after we were able to return to in-person meetings. Plans for fall volunteer kickoff events where refreshments and GSHPA branded items will be shared with volunteers in celebration of your previous and ongoing contributions. And just a bit about our volunteer award program updates. In the second quarter, 32 nominations were received for volunteers serving across the GSHPA footprint. Please remember that any volunteer from a service unit, task force, committee, site team, or program team can nominate a volunteer. Go to the GSHPA website and type in recognition, and it's going to be there in the first couple of links. We'd like to continue fostering a culture of appreciation for years to come. During April 2020, Volunteer Appreciation Month, awardees will receive a mailed letter from council leadership and the Volunteer Recognition and Appreciation Committee announcing their award. Public and local presentations of awards will be made once in-person meetings can again resume. The VRAC is strategizing on how to increase accuracy of award records for long-term volunteers. And we'd like to announce a new award that you can see in the picture there to the right. It's called the Juliet's Pearls Award, and it's focused on volunteers under 30 years of age, those focused on diversity initiatives, stellar troop volunteer, exceeds expectation at the service unit level, creating new programming on council level, and outstanding council level volunteers for specific programs or task forces. Juliet sold her pearls to start the first Girl Scout troop in 1912. So we think it's fitting that Juliet's Pearls Award is a symbolic reconstruction of the original strand of pearls she sold. So this award is a cumulative award with different color pearls focused in service areas that impact the Girl Scout mission and GSHP strategies. So a volunteer could get a series of different colored pearls. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacey. Christelle Fox, our CFO, is going to jump in and go over the treasurer's report. Christelle?
Thank you, Kelly. We wanted to share with you what is going on during this crisis. So in an effort to help small businesses and nonprofits overcome the challenges created by this health crisis that we're experiencing right now with COVID-19, the Small Business Administration is offering multiple coronavirus relief funding options. The first of which is the Paycheck Protection Program, designed to cover up to 2.5 months of payroll-related expenses to keep staff employed. We are proud to say GSHPA leadership has acted quickly to apply and obtained approval in the first round. These funds have already been received. The leadership team is following the guidelines and parameters outlined in this program in order for 100% of this funding to be considered a federal grant. The second funding option is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. Again, the leadership has acted quickly on this offer as well and has already obtained a $10,000 federal grant under this program. And additional funds are available through a low interest loan if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Christelle. Jashana?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I am very excited to announce that we currently have a fully staffed fund development department in place, led by our new fund development director, Christine Parks. Christine joins the council after closing her highly successful nonprofit consulting business. She is a lifelong Girl Scout and volunteered as a leader in service unit cookie liaison, and eventually joined the staff of what was Girl Scouts of Freedom Valley before starting her own business. As some of you may know, we have not had a fully staffed fund development team for quite some time. So I am excited to say that in addition to a fund development director, we now have a major gifts officer who will be focusing on individual gifts and corporate donations, a community partnerships and grant writer who will be doing two things. She'll be working with the community to establish partnerships where a company or a nonprofit can work with GSHPA to deliver quality Girl Scout programming. And she'll also be researching foundations and grant opportunities to find the best match for our mission of empowering the next generation of young women. And finally, our fund development data specialist, who will be ensuring that gifts from our donors are recognized in a timely fashion and that we're following through with every donor. This dynamic new team will also expand its efforts to include reaching out to younger alumna and increasing membership in the Juliet Gordon Low Society. As we all navigate COVID-19 in our personal lives, it will come as no surprise to all of you that COVID-19 has created some fundraising challenges for us. But statistics show that in times of challenge, individual donations to nonprofits will increase. We will be participating in several fund development campaigns soon, Give Local York, Giving Tuesday Now, and our own spring campaign. So please feel free to share that with others. We recognize that so many of our members, their friends, and families have been impacted by this pandemic, so we are working hard to be in the best position to help all girls, regardless of their financial ability, to have a Girl Scout experience. Donations of $25 can help to pay for a year's membership in Girl Scouts for those who may not be able to afford it. Many of you are already donors, and we are so appreciative of your giving. If you are able and would like to, we on the Fund Development Committee would ask you to think about how you will allocate your own charitable donations this year, and to remember that each and every donation matters, keeping in mind that we understand people are going through hardships right now with COVID-19. As a team, we are also really open to ideas and suggestions related to fundraising and donor engagement, whether that be individuals, corporations, foundations, or even in-kind donations. We are absolutely willing to work with you on the ask, but your ideas and introductions are so helpful to us as a team and will help us get our foot in the door. You can email the development@gshpa.org email, which is up on the slide, or you can even email Christine directly. Her email is kparts@gshpa.org. Working with the Fund Development Committee, the staff's overall focus will be to develop a culture of philanthropy resulting in diverse and sustainable revenue streams. And we are so excited for all that this year will bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Jashana. Adrian?
Good evening, everyone. At the fall governance meeting, we announced a new department, Outdoor Experience. That decision was a result of GSUSA shifting the paradigm from thinking of camp and outdoor program with separate goals, staff budgets, and accountabilities that made them an isolated mini council, to shifting to a new paradigm where camp and outdoor programs are fully integrated and integral to girl experience and council goals. To that end, GSUSA added outdoor and STEM as pillars in the girl experience, and the GSHPA responded by creating an outdoor experience department. We recognize GSHPA camp properties as assets that support outdoor programming, and as such, we're exploring how all camp properties can yield revenue. Those considerations include such options as programmatic additions to increase utilization, easements, and selective timbering. We also continue to explore grants that support outdoor program and property. With the very recent announcement of GSHPA making the difficult decision to cancel summer camp at Camp Small Valley and continue the closure of properties through August 31st, 2020, it was expected that a question about benchmarks would arise. All canceled reservations count towards the benchmarks. March benchmarks are displayed on your screen now and also posted on the Property Committee page of the website. The April benchmarks will be posted on GSHPA's website the first week of May. I'll now turn the presentation over to Janet.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you to our board members for your participation tonight and for all you do to support Girl Scouts in the heart of Pennsylvania. The last time I had an opportunity to address the whole council was at our annual meeting in October. As some of you may recall, I joined the annual meeting from outside a hospital room in Florida where my youngest daughter had just had surgery. I was so grateful at the time for modern technology that allowed me to balance my personal and professional responsibilities. And fast forward to today, to a time when we are all dependent on technology for so many of our interactions. And I am again grateful for technology and grateful for the breadth of the vision of our founder, Juliette Gordon-Low, that makes Girl Scouts relevant today, even during COVID-19. As I look back on the months of February, March, and April, what a whirlwind this has been. I couldn't be prouder of the way in which Girl Scouts has pivoted to a new normal. I recall reading our governor's guidelines on March 19th for the initial shutdown of non-essential businesses, which said, and I quote, "No person or entity shall operate a place of business in the Commonwealth that is not a life-sustaining business, regardless of whether the business is open to members of the public." As I read those words, my heart sank. We were going to have to close, but the next sentence was key. This prohibition does not apply to virtual or telework operations. And so began the GSHPA Council headquarters as a completely virtual operation. Laptops and cell phones and monitors and conference calls and Skype and Zoom and the powerhood of the sisterhood in full bloom this spring. When school and all the other extracurriculars in our girls' lives have gone away, Girl Scouts is here. We are providing calm in a storm for our girls, and it matters. It's easy to find ourselves weary right now, And some constancy in our girls' lives is so welcome, and that constancy is Girl Scouts. We not only never closed, we are better than ever, because unlike so many other opportunities that are no longer available to girls, our Girl Scouts can discover, connect, and take action. Girls are discovering what it means to pivot to virtual. They're connecting with one another, not only in their troops, but also across the nation. They are taking action. They are taking action every day in their communities, and you, our volunteers, are supporting them through all of this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'd like to share this story from Sylvia Acevedo, our GSUSA president and CEO, which I have shared before, but it does bear repeating. It's about one of our 11-year-old junior Girl Scouts whose mother went to tuck her in at night and found her wearing her Girl Scout vest over the top of her pajamas. When asked, "Why are you wearing your Girl Scout vest over your pajamas?" she responded, "It makes me feel safe, it makes me feel calm, and it makes me feel connected to Girl Scouts everywhere." In particular, I wanted to share this story from Sylvia because of the incredible support that GSUSA has been giving to local councils since the pandemic began. I recognize that local councils have not always seen the value of GSUSA, and I'm here to say that is not the GSUSA of today. They have been a true partner and have connected councils to one another in unprecedented ways. They are providing information to councils every day on proposed federal legislation. The Zoom technology licenses we are using to provide our council-wide virtual programming is being paid for by GSUSA. The discounted shipping that is being offered for cookies is being paid for by GSUSA, and so much more. What you will perhaps see most visibly is that GSUSA is developing national-level virtual programming for girls from every council to access. If you have not been to the GSUSA website, I encourage you to explore that, especially the online event calendar. Girls at Home has programming at every level of Girl Scouting from daisies through ambassadors, and they are moving towards Spanish-level programming because we believe in opportunities for all girls. Girl Scouts da cada oportunidad tras oportunidad de hacer más y ser más. It is such a wonderful feeling to have our national organization supporting us through this crisis. For those who may not have felt that before, take a look. Now I'd like to focus on some amazing changes within our own council. First, I'd like to virtually introduce new members of our executive team who have joined since the beginning of our fiscal year. Our new Chief Financial Officer, Christelle Fox, joined GSHPA last November, and we just heard from her. Christelle brings both financial experience and human resources expertise. She comes to us from the United Way Capital Region, where she was the Vice President of Finance and Support Services for many years. She brings with her a deep knowledge of nonprofits, not only United Way, but many of their partner organizations as well. She is SHRM certified, one of the highest levels of human resources certification, and has brought all that talent to bear as we fill vacancies on the council staff and as we look for operational efficiencies that will maximize the value of every dollar we receive, whether from our members or our donors. And I say, welcome, Christelle. Our new Chief Operating Officer, Deb Bogdansky, comes to us from across state lines from Girl Scouts in the heart of the Hudson. When I was searching for a new Chief Operating Officer, it was imperative to find someone with deep knowledge of Girl Scouts. Deb has all that and more. She has both nonprofit and for-profit experience. In New York, at the heart of the Hudson, she was the Chief Development Officer in a council that worked cross-functionally, including operations in everything they did. She was a troop leader for 14 years to her 2 daughters, and she volunteered at the service unit level as well. She's a lifetime member and a Juliette Gordon Low Society member. I hope when this pandemic is behind us, that each of you has an opportunity to talk to Deb about her Girl Scout volunteer experience, because it is inspiring to hear how a young troop leader took full advantage of all the opportunities there are in Girl Scouts for professional development as a leader, and how that training translated to her professional career, helping her grow as a leader in the working world and in Girl Scouts, and eventually led to a career in Girl Scouts for Deb. It's an inspiring story for any new volunteer. I'm proud to add her talents to the team, and she has been instrumental in helping us pivot to virtual programming during COVID-19. Welcome, Deb, to the heart of Pennsylvania. And now I'm going to pass the microphone to Deb so she can explain to all of you everything that is going on in the world of operations at GSHPA.
Moving to the next slide. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I really am honored and feeling very privileged to be here at Girl Scouts in the heart of Pennsylvania. This is not quite how I imagined some of my first meetings with the membership, but as we have heard, this is the circumstances that we are in, and we continue onward. When I highlight some of our operational successes, I'm going to start off in following the calendar year. So we'll start off talking a little bit about product sales, specifically the fall product sale that was held before COVID in the fall of 2019. We had some very good successes in proposing this program out to our membership and selling these products. It's a great way for our troops and our girls to get an early jump start on getting those needed funds to operate their programs and activities. Overall, you can see that we had a little over 5,000 girls who participated in the program. 3,000 of those were able to participate in selling the online products. One of the interesting features coming up for the fall product this fall in 2020 is that we did change the vendor, and we're going to have some very exciting technology opportunities for the girls, specifically addressing, for example, avatars. The girls will have a great fun opportunity to create their own avatars that they can actually have audio, video created behind it so that they can share that to prospects and sales. So a lot of fun and excitement to come on the fall product sale. Moving on. Next slide. Talking a little bit about where we are today, which is our cookie program. COVID-19 has turned much of what GSHPA is doing literally on its head. The cookie program is the first to share the changes and the highlights on. March 7th, we began with our mega drop, and over 500,000 boxes were delivered out to our troops and families for delivery. 1 week later, as you heard, Pennsylvania was shut down due to the health concerns, and we had to stop our cookie sales at that point. Girl Scouts, however, looked at this problem as an opportunity to be creative and to think differently. And boy, did they come up with some phenomenal solutions. Cookie Cares with GSUSA is a national marketing opportunity that GSUSA has rolled out. They are doing and providing all of that national marketing. It provides individuals across the country the opportunity to place orders digitally. When they go in and they enter their zip code, assuming it's a zip code in one of our 30 counties, that sale immediately gets transferred over to us in terms of the proceeds. This has been a wonderful opportunity for us to support and drive donations directly to local healthcare providers, first responders, and those proceeds will be going directly into GSHPA specifically for financial assistance for our girls. Cookie pop-up shops, we just recently announced this and are able to highlight for our local troops a very similar opportunity. You can go in and enter an address, or you can do your own search and identify a local Girl Scout troop that you would like to place your order with digitally, and those sales will go directly into that troop. We have a very unique Google Map tool now up on our website to facilitate your search and to help you to find that local troop so that you can buy directly from. As you heard earlier, we've also been able to support some additional discounting on shipping. If you choose to have the cookies shipped directly to you, we will also do the best we can once travel orders are lifted to see what we can do about personal delivery by the girls. We also have unstaffed cookie booths that several troops have been able to facilitate and make available. What they are doing is creating a actual cookie booth inside perhaps a grocery store, a local shop that is still open for traffic, but there are no girls there to actually staff the booth. They put up some unique posters, they put up some photographs, and the retailer themselves will handle the transactions with the proceeds going back to that troop. So that's been another win for our local businesses and our local Girl Scout troops. Virtual booths is an opportunity for us to speak to donors, specifically who are interested in making larger donations and purchasing cases of cookies, which they can have delivered to we've had some delivered to local nursing homes, local first responders, for example, if that's where they choose to make that donation, and they're able to purchase cases of cookies as part of their donations. So we continue to look at different ways, creative ways. We've extended the sale. For some of you who may know, our sales traditionally lasted only until the end of April. We are now running through to the end of May, and we will continue to be creative and to think outside the box in order to make the cookie program a success for our girls. Next slide, please. You heard a little bit about the virtual program world. Here's some visuals, and we'll touch a little bit on the specific activities that GSHPA has made available to all of our girls. This has been a phenomenal enterprise to watch, to experience, both as a spectator as well as for the girls to see. The emails that we have been getting from girls and their parents in terms of the positive impact, the way the girls are enjoying this type of a program delivery is really, it really warms your heart. We've been able to, without the face-to-face meetings, to be able to pivot to being able to engage the girls through the virtual reality of our programming. And some of these are live. So here you're seeing a snapshot of the Zoom meeting that's live. We offer Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evening by age level different virtual troop meetings that the girls can come in and join according to their age level. These activities are all available through our website. Just check out the homepage and click on Girls at Home. You can go into any of all of these programs. Downloadable activities that we have set up throughout the website include challenges, badge activities, patches, scavenger hunts, great fun. The live events, as I mentioned, we do Facebook Live outdoor program. Yes, you can have some outdoor programming, even in the virtual program world, and the girls have really had a chance to enjoy some of those. We also have had our STEAM programs continuing using Zoom. We continue to do the Q&A again with our program team. When we talk about some of the live opportunities, we are also able to record them. So for those of you who are interested in joining some of our camp sing-alongs, they are recorded, they are available through our website. Troop leader tutorials, Girl Scout traditions. This is one that we've just started to kick off. A lot of interest and activity in this, and we'll continue to build on it. And then we also have one of our outdoor program staff who's working on a virtual constellation discovery series. And again, she does part of it live, records it, and then it can continue to be shared with our girls throughout the year. On average, we are seeing, on average for our virtual troop meetings, over 50 attendees for each of these sessions. Next slide, please. Talking a little bit further, we've expanded based on the feedback and the interest level of the girls. For example, for our older girls, there was a lot of discussion and interest on career paths. So we've put together a panelist every week, 1 hour session, bringing together career professionals for the girls to interview, to chat with, to talk with. So what we have discovered with the virtual program is the opportunity to remove the barrier of geography. Any of the girls within our footprint can participate. Furthermore, any girl can participate. We are not limiting these programs and these activities to only our Girl Scouts. We want all girls to get a chance to experience Girl Scouts, to understand how vital and fun our programs can be. So we're making sure that it is open to all girls. And again, this is done through our website. I can't emphasize enough how well attended some of these programs are. We have a program coming up later this week. Right now, we have 195 girls scheduled. Yes, we can manage that even in this platform because it actually has the opportunity to do breakout rooms. So our staff have very quickly pivoted and learned these technologies, and the girls are benefiting from that. Next slide, please. Something that we are very disappointed with is the decision that was made earlier this week. We did announce that the summer camp, as advertised at Camp Small Valley, is canceled. That decision was based following the current federal and state health guidelines. Reservations and the events that have been scheduled on our properties through August 31st, in addition, are all being canceled. We know that outdoor programming is such a key program for our girls. It plays a vital role in the overall Girl Scout experience, but we also know that Girl Scouts are resilient. We are looking at alternative ways that we can provide some programming, as I mentioned, virtually. We will continue to explore options and alternatives throughout the summer, but we do need to be cognizant of the health guidelines, and that is paramount to us in terms of the safety of our girls. So we will continue to monitor and keep everyone up to date. This is the decision that has made at this time. Member Services is contacting all of those who have reservations. We ask that you please be patient. We are trying to get through to everyone as quickly as we can, and we will be making refunds and rescheduling and all of those options available to everyone throughout the season. Our outdoor program staff is already reimagining to virtual for expanded outdoor programs. We will continue to share these activities and updates as we move forward. Next slide. Early bird renewal and the recruitment updates. Early bird renewal has been moved to May 1st to May 31st. In order to receive the $10 discount, which is available from GSHPA, again, a reminder that you must use the double knot link that was shared by the membership renewal staff. The girls who do renew during this time period will be eligible to get the early bird butterfly patch, and that will be made available later this year. We are also starting virtual recruitments, and here again, we are opening up many of our activities and our programs so that girls can experience Girl Scouts and understand the value to Girl Scouting. We will have virtual open houses, and we will continue to find new ways to dialogue in this environment in order to bring the Girl Scout experience forward. We'll continue to share these programs and events. And as we've mentioned also earlier, GSHPA realized that for many of you, your friends and your family have been impacted by COVID-19. For anyone facing a financial impact, please consider the financial assistance option and connect with our membership services teams, because we want to make sure that everyone is available. Through the generosity of donors and local foundations, we strive to make the Girl Scout experience available to all girls here in the heart of Pennsylvania. Now I'll turn it back to our next speaker.
Before we go into the mission moment, hi, good evening, it's Amy Mountain. I did just want to mention to everyone that there is a question function on your right-hand panel, and you can submit questions through that panel, and then we'll collect those and we will answer and address those questions before we end the overall session. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. It's Janet, and I wanted to share our mission moment. So our mission moment today showcases the generosity and the spirit of service that characterizes girls in our council. Just as Girl Scouts have done for more than 100 years, they've rallied and adjusted and leaned in when times are difficult. Juliet Gordon Lowe envisioned our organization where girls were part of a community and led lives of service, contributing to their own communities. That's no different today, as our girls have pivoted during this remarkable time and shown support for those on the front lines of the pandemic. Throughout our council, there is a recognition by our Girl Scouts that this pandemic has not touched everyone equally. And it is inspiring to see how they have responded in their own communities. Here are only a few examples of girls bringing the joy of cookies to those who every single day are helping others heal and strengthen. So clockwise from the left top, photo number 1 shows Wellspan Gettysburg staff receiving a wagon load full of Girl Scout cookies of nearly 100 boxes from Troop 80769 in Adams County. Jakia Noose is pictured here with staff from the Wellspan Gettysburg community. Photo number 2 is in Huntington County, Girl Scout Troop 40203, who donated 2 cases of cookies to employees at Penn Highlands, Huntington. Taking part in the donation were, from the left, Cath Lab Tech Bill Hurst, Cath Lab Nurse Fallon McGill, and Troop Moms Nicole Hanlon and Crystal Solomon. In the photo number 3, there's nearly 50 boxes of donated cookies that were donated by Azriel Robeson. She is a Juliet in the Service Unit 324 in Schuylkill County, and she made the kitchen crew at Reading Hospital very happy. And finally, Girl Scouts in Troop 20087 in York County raised enough money to donate the remainder of their cookie packages, which were originally to be sold at Cookie Booths. When they were given the option, the girls chose a local hospital and this local fire department. I wish we had another hour to showcase every troop and every girl who's making a difference in her community during this pandemic. But for today, we'll have to settle for this small sample. I'm so proud of them all. And for every one of you who touches a Girl Scout making a difference, I know how proud you are too. I want to conclude with this thought. For those of you who may be personally impacted by coronavirus, and I am confident that there are many, whether it's your health or your employment situation, or your finances, your friends, or your family, the phrase thoughts and prayers feels inadequate. But I'm thinking about you, and I'm reminded of the parts of the Girl Scout law that seem so vivid to me now, in which we promise to do our best to be considerate and caring, courageous and strong, to make the world a better place, and to be a sister to every Girl Scout. So please stay safe and be well. And I'm now going to turn it over to Amy to help us field your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. All right, we have a number of questions that came in. Thank you everyone for using the question log. So there's several categories of these. I'll try to go through those in a reasonable order, but forgive me if I jump around a little bit. Okay, let's start with, do you have official guidance on end of year trips and summer camping for troops, given the COVID-19 closing and cancellation of camps and properties? Deb, do you want to take that?
Yeah, thank you, Amy. At this point in time, we are making that decision based on the guidelines that are currently in place. As I think everyone understands, we cannot predict the future. So we are guiding all of our troops that have trip requests in, that those trips are now we are asking them to cancel based on the guidelines that we have in place. That may change in the future, but for now, we are asking that all of these trips and plans that are now, I'll say for the near future, year end is a perfect example, that they are canceled.
Thank you. As we look a little farther ahead, a question has come in asking, how is council involving membership in reopening camps and outdoor programming? Again, Deb, I'm going to bounce that to you.
Okay. At this point in time, we are closed through to the end of the summer. Again, we are basing this information on the current guidelines that are available to us for health and safety reasons. We will be continuing to dialogue with our local support entities to see what options we have moving forward. More than likely, that will be coming up in the fall.
Thank you. Another question having to do with the report that Christelle did on behalf of Bridget. What is the amount of GSHPA's PPP loan? And a follow-up to that, what are those funds being used for? Janet, would you like to take that, or Bridget?
This is Janet. I can take that. So the PPP loan is under the Small Business Administration coronavirus stimulus package. And our loan is based on a formula that is provided by statute, which includes going back over a period of time and figuring out what our payroll expenses are, what our other expenses are, multiplying that by a particular variable. And under the terms of the formula that was set out by Congress, we were entitled to apply for $715,000, which has been approved. Because of the nature of the loan and the formula by which we came to that amount, there are very specific things that loan can be used for, and we will ensure that we are using that in compliance with all of what the statutory guidance it is. It is predominantly for staff salaries, for mortgages, for leases, for anything else that comes with benefits, unemployment compensation, taxes, etc. There's a long laundry list, but generally speaking, those are the categories that it falls within.
Thank you. A couple cookie-related questions. Can unstaffed booths continue in years to come as an option? Deb, sending it your way.
Sorry, I jumped right in. At this time, we are considering the unstaffed booths to be a pilot program, and we will continue to review options for the years going forward. So that remains to be seen. I think everyone is very well aware that the Girl Scout cookie program is designed to be an entrepreneurial program that the girls are active and participating in. It's not meant to be just a retail opportunity. So even in our unstaffed cookie booths, we do ask the Girl Scout troops that are sponsoring it to make sure that their presence is known, even though it's not a physical presence. So that's why we suggested that they create posters, that they put up photographs, that they share what their plans and activities are around these cookie proceeds, because we do want the public and the girls to fully understand and appreciate the entrepreneurship. So we don't have an answer as to whether or not this will continue moving forward. The focus again will continue to be on the girls' involvement in selling the cookies.
A follow-up, the cookies. Oh, yes.
Amy, it's Janet. Let me just add to that. I am anticipating that there will be significant GSUSA guidance after this cookie season as to the types of unique programs that we will be able to provide in the future. And in particular, understanding that there are a few broad overarching concerns about having the cookie program be something different than it has been in years past. One of those concerns is whether or not our cookie sales should be subjected to state and local sales taxes. The reason that we have been able to not have to pay that is because of the short duration of the cookie season and because of the nature of the entire entrepreneurial cookie program. And so the more that this looks like retail, the less it is going to pass scrutiny under the IRS guidelines. So I believe that we will have significant guidance on that going forward, and that the types of things that we are doing this year may be seen as uniquely coronavirus. Thank you.
This question, the cookies we have are a lot to be able to sell. Is it possible to get a refund, and how would that work?
This is Deb. We have been communicating with all of our troop leaders. We did speak to them about 2 weeks ago to talk through which troops felt they were not able to continue. So at this point, it's our understanding that the troops that have not withdrawn from the sales will be continuing. We have continued to look at alternative ways in addition to the traditional methods, including the digital cookie pop-up shops, as I shared earlier, as a way for girls to continue to sell but not have to physically be outside their homes at this point in time in order to sell. We are optimistic that at some point, some areas will have some of the stay-at-home order and travel restrictions lifted in such a way that they may be able to do expanded delivery. Again, respectful of social distancing, any guidelines around face masks, face coverings, et cetera. We will continue to urge that they follow all of those guidelines whenever they are out in the public at this point in time. So we are looking at ways that we can continue, and we continue to dialogue with each of these troop leaders around where they're at, how many cookies they have, and what other opportunities we can make available so that they can be successful with the cookie sale.
And just to tag on to that, Deb, is May 31st the official end of cookies, or is it possible that it would be extended?
At this point in time, the cookie sale is projected to wrap up by May 31st. We will be revisiting that end date at May 8th, I believe, is when we expect to hear more from the governor's office in terms of some of the counties where they may or may not have restrictions lifted in terms of some of the stay-at-home orders. So we will revisit it at that time as well to see if it's possible to extend further out.
Okay. Sure. I'm sorry, I have a longer question here. Let me just get through it and make sure I understand exactly what's being asked. You know, this is a very specific question about number of cookie boxes left and how to do that. I'm going to make sure that this question gets to Jess Delp, our Director of Product Program, and we'll make sure that she gets back to the person who's asked this question to address it. Okay?
Amy, can I jump in?
I'm sorry?
May I jump in for a second? I just spotted a question. Are there any free sites that we know of that can be used for virtual troop meetings? The answer is yes. You can go in and you can sign up for a free Zoom account that is available, and you certainly can access that. If you sign up for a free Zoom account, which many of us have done, you get you can use it, and it's for 40 minutes. If your troop meeting needs to go longer, you sign up for the second session.
Okay, so there's a question here related to the Zoom platform. Are there opportunities for individual troops to use the Zoom platform?
At this point, because we have a limit on the license and the use, we've actually had it fully booked. So we're not able to expand it at this time, but we will continue to see what other options we can make available. In the meantime, as I said, we've also indicated that, and we've encouraged anyone who wants to, because that's the way many of us are doing it as well, is to just sign up and get the free accounts.
Okay, since cookie sales are not as predicted, given COVID, and the camp season has been canceled, what will GSHPA do to help the bottom line? I'm nervous about that decisions will be made to sell remaining camp properties in haste.
This is Janet. I'll take that. So one of the things that we have to recognize is that we have been in a long-term discussion over our camp properties. So for the past, now we are in the third year of benchmarks for 2 of our camps, and we are the first year for Furnace Hill. So it will be a discussion at the board level on what happens next with our properties. As Adrienne mentioned before, we have, and she is the chair for our property committee. The property committee is looking at all different options for what our properties are. I can tell you that no hasty decisions will be made with regard to any of the properties. These will be very deliberative decisions, and they will be something that is discussed fully with the membership as we press forward. We are concerned about the bottom line, of course, but at the same time, our cookie sales have been amazing. It is due to our volunteers who are continuing to work very hard. It is due to our product and retail program department who have come up with all kinds of ideas. And we have been receiving a lot of support from the community. With fully a month left to go in cookie sales, we are expecting to continue to progress along that profit realm, and we are looking to increase our fund development. We have a full fund development team right now looking for grant opportunities, looking for other ways in which we can do independent fundraising. So appreciate your efforts in getting those ideas for fund development to our fund development team. We will also be asking for individual donations, but we do not anticipate right now any hasty decisions regarding property.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. There's a membership question here, Deb. Will there be a discounted rate for lifetime memberships for our graduating seniors again this year? As you probably remember, Deb, from last year, the month of April had a discounted lifetime membership opportunity. That was an incentive that ran last year. Is that same opportunity available this year?
That was an incentive that was made available by GSUSA. It was made available to, it was not restricted to graduating seniors, and it was actually available also to adults. At this point in time, any young lady under the age of 30 is eligible for the discount of $200 versus the $400 to sign up for a lifetime member. I'm not aware of any other discounts at this time, though.
Okay. All right. Deb, this is going to feel a little bit like you've already answered this, but it's a specific question about holding a summer activity, and I just think that we can't hear the answer enough about what the recommendations are or what the plan is ahead for the next couple months. So I'm just going to ask you to answer this again specifically. Let's see, are we able to keep a local service unit camp this summer, or do we need to cancel is the question.
At this point in time, we are not authorizing troops or service units to hold events or activities until the end of August. I also noticed that there was a question about STEAM or STEM reservations, and that is the same. We are canceling all of those STEAM or STEM activities. This is beyond just the travel and stay-at-home restrictions. We're also very cognizant of the social distancing requirements, which can be a little bit more of a challenge when we have young ladies together. We're still following the health and safety guidelines that we have today. I don't think anyone imagined that we would be dealing with this for months on end, nor do we have any end sight at this moment. So we need to, again, put the health and safety of our girls in the forefront. So we are not approving travel for the girls at this point in time, and we're holding it till the end of the summer, given what we have in front of us today.
Let's turn to a question about early bird renewal. When can we expect the link to early bird registrations? I'll answer that from the perspective of the website. The link for early renewal registrations, that page will go live on Friday, May 1st. So this week on Friday, the page for early bird renewals and the link to be able to do that will be made available. Deb, is there any other method by which that's being made available?
No, you are correct. We will again just remind everyone to be sure that they are using the double knot link in order to access the discount. After May 31st, for those individuals that do renew, and it's outside of the May 31st period, so the discount will no longer apply. You will simply go into My GS.
Okay. All right. With regards to the virtual meetings offered through council, are there any plans to host events for bridging girls to join a next level meeting so that she can complete the requirements for bridging?
Absolutely. We are working on doing several virtual bridging sessions, meetings, absolutely.
Okay.
So bear with us. I think everyone understands that there's a lot of moving parts at the moment. We are trying to make sure that we are keeping up with everything. Normally, this would be the peak period for bridging, but we are running a little bit behind on that. So we are looking forward to sharing some of those highlights with everyone over the next few weeks.
Okay. There was a question I was digging for here. I'll get to it. We have quite a few questions, so I just want to let folks know that we're moving through them as efficiently as possible, but we do have a lot of questions lined up, so bear with us as we work through them. Okay, one moment, please. How do the Juliettes bridge?
I'm sorry?
How do Juliettes bridge?
Juliet's, it still goes by their program level, and they can reach out to the VSC, and we can help to coordinate that for them, absolutely.
Okay. Would you consider moving the 2021 cookie sale to an earlier start date?
Anything's under consideration, and then when we get the winter blizzards, we'll reconsider it. If I won't rule that out, we will certainly take it up with our cookie staff.
Okay. This is sort of I think kind of an expression of frustration. Someone here has mentioned that they're frustrated when our counties fully open after August, assuming that ends up being that way. How are we going to keep girls motivated, knowing that we're going to probably lose girls over this time period until we can gather again and be in active programming? Deb or Janet, would either of you like to comment on that?
Well, I do understand the challenge of not being able to gather in person, which is why we have been as focused as we have been about offering other opportunities for girls to connect. Excuse me. So in offering these virtual opportunities, not only to just connect with the same girls who are in their troop, but also with other troops at the same level and also at the national level, we are hoping that the Girls at Home program will actually make girls feel more connected to Girl Scouts, not less connected to Girl Scouts, and that will encourage them to remain Girl Scouts as they move forward. We're getting a lot of positive feedback about girls who are able to complete their patchwork and badge work and journey work. And so to the extent that those opportunities are available for girls, we're hoping that they are encouraged by our volunteers and our troop leaders to participate in those as well.
So it also appears here that looks like we have someone asking that with Camp Archibald is celebrating its 100th anniversary, why isn't council doing anything to honor this occasion? Deb, would you like to talk about that?
Go ahead. I think Amy, I'm probably the one to talk about that. As I understood it when I arrived, and I will confess that all of the arrangements that were done for the 100th anniversary planning were done and agreed to before my arrival. It was a very well executed plan. I do know that, and working with the supporters of Camp Archibald, that as it was part of the turnover to me, supporters of Camp Archibald were working on the 100th anniversary plan and executing that with the support of council, but not with council run operations. So I do know that our office in Scranton has been working with the supporters of Camp Archibald on the 100th anniversary events. I just was able to see, actually this morning, a fabulous picture of a troop from 1959 at camp in 1959 for the Camp Archibald, and I know that they are working on have been working on some fabulous events for that centennial. So
Yeah, Jen, it's Amy. I'd like to jump in on that too, just from a media and a marketing perspective. We've actually been in touch quite a bit with SOCA related to making sure that they are that they're having their events placed on our website calendar, and then planning to support, I guess, a key event that they're planning for the fall. Again, assuming that we're all in a position to be able to engage in a face-to-face manner. So. There's actually from a marketing and communications perspective anyway, there's a fairly active engagement with the supporters of Camp Archibald to make sure that, again, as we move outside of this unique situation, we're working in support of the plans that SOCA is putting in place. So perhaps the person who asked this question might want to touch base with SOCA, supporters of Camp Archibald, and check in with them on where their plan stands right now, because I believe it's a pretty active plan. Okay, a question here about really sort of a comment, I guess, asking about, why wouldn't we follow government guidelines if they change, and sort of mentioning that it feels like perhaps we're penalizing girls for the entire summer, when we don't know when restrictions will be relaxed. So I think the question is really, why aren't we figuring out other ways to be able to engage if we can? And I know, Janet, we've spent a lot of time talking about the guidelines that we need to follow and how those are being managed at both the CDC and the state level, and why we're aligning with those. Do you want to talk a little bit more through why it's important organizationally that we work in tandem with national health guidelines and state-specific guidelines, both from a service perspective and a safety perspective, but also from an organizational perspective?
Sure, I'll talk to that. I think what might be helpful is for me to talk through a little bit of the thought process on how we came to this. And I want to emphasize, we did not come to these very painful decisions lightly. And I'll tell you what some of my concerns are. First of all, as we look to, we really don't have any guidelines right now from the state. We are still under a state of emergency nationally. We are still completely red through every county in the state of Pennsylvania. To leave this undecided is very difficult. We have also we also have to understand that our summer camp is run with international staff predominantly. Visas under the J-1 visa program for international staff have been frozen by the president, and we do not anticipate those to lift. So trying to go ahead and figure out what our plans might be for an entirely new staff would be difficult. If we were to open and we looked at the CDC guidelines for what cleaning requirements are required in order to do the deep cleaning that would have to be done with every usage, to clean the surfaces, the types of surfaces that we have, which are not stainless steel, but are wood, the types of things that would have to be done in order to guarantee or at least do what we can to follow CDC guidelines to improve the chances for safety for our girls, seemed completely overwhelming for the staff to be able to handle. The questions that I asked myself were, how would we screen for girls who came to camp to see whether or not they had any symptoms? Do they have underlying conditions? There have been CDC guidelines that tell us that underlying conditions include diabetes and asthma and obesity. And so would we as Girl Scouts say that if a girl had diabetes, or if a girl had asthma, or if a girl was not within weight standards, that we would tell those girls they couldn't come to camp? I can't imagine that. But at the same time, would we be saying, yes, we can keep you safe, knowing that those girls are at a higher risk by every medical standard right now for contracting COVID if in fact there were a girl who were to have that. If we had a girl who came up as a presumptive positive, understanding that there is no testing widely available right now, so we would have to make some sort of determination with our nurse on staff about presumptive positives. Would we then quarantine all the girls for 2 weeks? And what would happen with our parents and our caretakers? How would they feel about having their girl quarantined for 2 weeks? How would we have girls in that setting with social distancing guidelines, and how would we enforce that? What would a camp experience look like for girls who maybe couldn't go use the swimming pool? What would that look like with girls to go to camp with masks, who weren't able to do things that were less than 6 feet apart? Would this, in fact, poison that Girl Scout camping experience for them for later years? I don't know how really we could really maintain our most important health and safety concerns for our girls, making sure that we are inclusive of all girls and taking care of their safety as it relates to the coronavirus. I do understand that there are counties in our footprint that have had very few cases, but it would be very difficult for us to screen or to say a particular girl could or couldn't come. I just found that to be almost impossible to maneuver, and knowing what our staff goes through to put on an exceptional camp experience. What we want is an exceptional camp experience as our girls go forward. And the thought that we would have anything that would be a coronavirus case over the course of several outings or several weeks didn't seem to me to be feasible. At this point, it is imperative, I believe, to follow the current guidelines, to follow the CDC guidelines, and to follow the state guidelines. And although there is discussion by the governor that they may open, at the same time, what the guidelines say is that before those counties will be opened, the initial guidance came and said they would have to make sure that there was testing available, widely available throughout those counties. And I know that according to the CDC guidance, we don't have widely available testing. These are excruciating things because outdoor experience is really one of the 4 pillars of Girl Scouting. I want to be able to offer these opportunities to our girls. As these things, if August 1st should come and there are outdoor experiences available in areas where we would be able to talk about the cleanliness opportunities, or maybe would be able to take girls on hikes where they could have a stick that is 6 feet tall that would be able to keep them 6 feet away from one another through a hike that would perhaps maybe go to the Appalachian Trail or something along those lines. Our staff is working very diligently to figure out how we might be able to do that and also ensure the safety of our girls. And in the meantime, dedicating themselves to trying to come up with very engaged virtual activities for our girls. This is an uncertain time. It's an unprecedented time, and we need to do what is best to protect Girl Scouts as a brand, Girl Scout experience for all of our girls, and to make sure that they are safe. So I know that's a long explanation for that. I hope it gives some insight into the thinking that I had as we were moving forward, but very painful decisions, and I appreciate your support.
So let's see here. I'm going to try to, I'm seeing on the question log here a number of different very specific tactical questions about cookie, about some of the rewards and incentives and things like that for girls and for troops. And I'm going to ask for your allowance here that we not address those detail by detail, because I know I don't have those answers at my fingertips, Deb. I'm not going to promise that you do. And I think it would be more efficient and probably a more clear process for us to gather those questions in a document and have Jess and her team provide very specific answers that we can share out with people. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I think I'm looking at some of those too, and I think that's the best way for us to manage and to make sure that we're getting accurate information back.
Okay, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. I don't want you to, for those of you who have submitted those specific questions, I don't want you to feel like you're not going to get them answered. I think that we can do that better because they're very particular, we can address those holistically and get some things out to you. There's also a number of questions in here, Janet and Deb, related to camp, Camp Archibald and Camp Furnace Hills, and extending, the opportunity to extend the benchmark review time, and all sorts of different questions related to why council isn't doing that, or are we going to consider that? And I think, Janet, if you could give a little more information about what the process is related to all of the properties as that works through the property committee and the board in addressing myriad questions about usage of camps, benchmarks of using camps, and the future of those camps that are under review right now. Can you talk a little bit about that process and how those kinds of questions are asked of the board and asked of the property committee, and how they will tackle those moving forward under the circumstances with COVID? I know you touched on it earlier, but would you talk about it a little bit more, please?
Sure, I can talk about it, and certainly if our property committee chair, Adrian, wants to chime in, I'm happy to have her comment as well. So if we can just return to the concept of benchmarks. So we did an evaluation where we found that Camp Small Valley was the camp that we should retain, in part because it was financially sustainable. So one of the reasons that we're looking at camp properties is because although we may having those properties, there are expenses to having those properties, and we want to make sure that the properties are financially sustainable. So there are maintenance things that must be done in order to keep the properties going. There are staff concerns in order to make sure that the properties are maintained. And as we look at all of those expenses and understand that we need to take a look at buildings that over time will need to be replaced, those expenses need to be built into the cost of what it takes to run a camp and what it takes to keep a property viable. And so benchmarks were established to say, this is the camp, this is how much it costs to run that camp, this is the level of usage for that particular camp that we would have to have in order to make the camp financially viable. So over the course of time, what we did was we established, basically the council was subsidizing that with donor money, and subsidizing those camps. We were doing that at a certain level over the first year, then over the second year, then over the third year, burden shifting that basically to usage to make the camp self-sustaining. So over time, the first year, both our properties at Camp Archibald and at Happy Valley made their first year benchmarks. Then as we moved to the second year, Happy Valley was very close to making its benchmark. Camp Archibald was not close to making its benchmark, and now we are in the third year of that. And what we were projecting based on the level of usage that we had already for this year and the level of usage that we anticipated based on our reservations, and also looking at the usage from previous years, is that Happy Valley would be close to making its benchmarks. Camp Archibald would not be close to making its benchmark. And similarly with Furnace Hills, Furnace Hills was delayed. Furnace Hills was delayed because they had a tornado that ravaged the property. And so they did not start their benchmarks for an entire year. Based on that, at the request of the Friends Group, we began their benchmarks for this year starting in January of 2020. And based on all projections, they would have made their first year benchmarks. So as we're moving forward, what now we need to do in order to see whether or not those properties can be financially sustainable moving forward is to take a look at all of that data. And these will be decisions that the board will make with input from management about where do we move forward in these areas. Are there other arenas where we would be able to come up with different finances to make a property financially sustainable? We're looking at all of that right now. Those are continuing conversations that we have in every property committee meeting and at every full board of directors meeting. So I do know that this is of concern, and we do keep the property website updated with information from the property committee as we meet. I'm going to let Adrienne have an opportunity to make comments, or Kathy if she chooses.
Thanks, Janet. I agree with everything that you said, and I think you gave a good response as to kind of where things are at right now and what's been on our minds. Our goal right now is to kind of redirect our focus and start looking at our camp properties as assets. And with the benchmarks, the focus has been trying to make camp sustainable through utilization. And we're realizing that while that's going to continue to be the goal, that in some cases it may not fully support the financial needs to keep that camp running. So as Janet mentioned, we are looking at other ways that revenue can be generated off of properties or other things that the properties provide that can help us to meet the expenses to keep the camps fully functioning for all of our girls and volunteers. So that's something that we'll continue to discuss in addition to discussing benchmarks. And Janet mentioned there'll be recommendations of the property committee that go before the board and staff management for further consideration.
Thank you, Adrienne. I think I'll also say this, and that is we are also looking at if we didn't have the camps, how would the outdoor experience pillar of Girl Scouting continue to be fulfilled? Because that is a key portion. So is an opportunity to use state parks, is that actually viable, or are the waiting lists too long? Would the expenses to be able to use those facilities not be conducive to making that an outdoor experience available to all of our girls? So we are balancing more than just the money. And I think that there has been a perception that it's all about the dollars. I will tell you that that is not where management is right now. We certainly need to be financially responsible, and we need to understand what the usage is. We also need to make sure that we are taking into consideration everything that is part of our Girl Scout experience, and a large part of that is outdoor properties.
Okay, let me get to a couple other questions here. There was a question about the Gold Award program, with girls not being able to actively complete or do projects or work on them if they, of course, need to be outside or out in the community. Have any deadlines related to submitting Gold Award projects been changed at all for 2020? Deb, do you want to take that?
I can, but you can too, Amy.
Indeed, I can. I'm scrolling through questions.
I know, we talked about this. GSUSA has allowed for extending out the deadlines, and this is just one more piece of information that we will be doing our best to communicate out. So yes, recognizing that for many of the girls in those projects where they had a interactive engagement that was necessary for them, we are looking at those extensions. Absolutely.
So I think that GSUSA extended, originally had September, the end of September, I believe, as the deadline for receiving Gold Award project finals, and they have moved that through December 31st, 2020.
Correct.
So girls do have until December 31st, 2020 to submit final projects. Now, specifically related to what would have been our Gold Award celebration event on May 16th, which of course has been canceled, we had established an April 3rd deadline date for girls to submit their final projects to GSHPA so that we could gather their information and be able to proceed with that celebration activity. We've transitioned the Gold Award celebration event to a series of different virtual kinds of things that we're going to do. And so that April 3rd date still stands, and we have 50 girls who completed their Gold Award project. So we are doing a number of different kinds of letters and emails. We're hoping for a video from a special guest that we'll be able to send out to girls, plus promote them across different platforms, traditional media and social media, and provide them with several digital tools that they can use for their own portfolio, whether that's for work or whether that's for college applications. They'll have several tools from GSHPA that they'll be able to integrate into their own portfolio. So that our deadline for this year's class, if you will, was April 3rd, and we are actively in the midst of putting together their swag bags and some other types of fun things that we'll be able to get to them when we're able to resume in person and in the office activity. So hopefully that gives a little clarity on that. Okay, let's see here. Let me move down. There was a shout out here for signing up for the unlimited Zoom license. I think it cost $15, and this troop leader said, by all means, do it. It's worth every single cent to have the unlimited Zoom license. So you could try the free Zoom piece, which is, we say 40 minutes. But then if you sign up for the unlimited, it's a $15 charge, and this troop leader says, yes, absolutely. Okay, you mentioned a vendor change for fall product. Are you talking about a vendor change in regards to the gifts online or to online sales, or can you talk a little bit more about what that means?
We are moving to a new vendor, and with this new vendor, we will have, so it will be a different product line. It is not a company that is new to Girl Scouts. So they are very familiar with working with Girl Scouts. They also partner with M2, which is a phenomenal technology platform. So that is the platform that I was referencing, in that the girls will now have the opportunity to create customized avatars and really do some very personalized appeals as they promote their products and create their own little websites and so forth. But yes, it is a new vendor that we will be using for the product sales.
Okay, great. A question here from someone who said they have a camp, Service Unit 642. They have a local camp called Thunder Boomer. Should they assume that this is going to be canceled as well? It's scheduled for August. Can you comment on those kinds of events, Deb, from your experience and from where we are now in our guidelines?
Yes. Unfortunately, given the guidelines and the information that we have today, we are not able to move forward with approving these events. It is, as we've shared, it's not an easy decision to make, and it is in consideration, first and foremost, the health and safety of the girls.
Okay. Does anyone have any insight, a magic 8-ball, Deb, maybe, if GSUSC is going to replace the Lemon Ups with an actual lemon flavored cookie next year? I just thought I'd throw that out there. That is a question.
I don't have any insights. That's always an unknown to me as well.
The only thing that we hear in marketing communications from GSUSA is typically, on average, that a cookie change comes about every 2 or 3 years. That's an on average guesstimate. But, you know, other than that, we are usually embargoed. You know, we find out some information, limited information, but then the news is embargoed until, of course, it's distributed publicly. But at this point, there's no news of any new cookie coming at all. So just sharing that from a marketing communications perspective. All right. The cookie reward for a certain level of boxes was a free week of camp. Can we offer that prize for camp next year instead of the new much smaller prize? And again, then we'll put this one also, we'll also put this into our specific cookie chat, but I thought that that might be of interest. Deb, if you might be able to answer that.
I really am not sure that I can answer it specifically. I do know that we are working to reposition those those rewards, given the fact that, you know, this is not an option for this year. So I do know that we continue to look at how we can alternatively provide rewards for the girls so that they feel rewarded this year.
Okay, that's very helpful. Okay, let me just take a quick check. Again, there are a number of very specific, thank you, yes, I agree. I thought the lemon up was pretty good too, Michelle. I agree with you. But you know, everybody has different taste buds for sure. So let me just see here. I think that okay. So, some folks here are sharing information about different resources, like Dauphin County Library System is giving the free unlimited Zoom meeting, for example. We'll collect all these comments and make sure we share these resources out with everybody. When is the Silver Award due date? I do not have that information at my fingertips. We'll need to check in with our program folks and get more information for that on you. All right.
Amy, I saw a quick question about Mariner and Trailblazer troops.
Okay.
That is one of those special interest outdoor troops that we are working with our outdoor program team on. So we hope to have announcements on that. There are also a series of new badge activities that will be revealed later this summer for this upcoming new season. Some more exciting news to share when we get those badge details and information available for everyone.
Okay, okay. There is another question here, and Deb, you know, I know it may feel like you're repeating yourself, but this is a question I think we need to answer time and time again because it comes in a couple different shapes and sizes. With restrictions the way we are, can we take a camping trip? Can we take girls hiking? Can we do a local activity? What can we do locally with the restrictions that are in place? And what is GSHPA's guidance on those local types of activities?
I think it's important to remind ourselves of the CDC guidance and guidelines. COVID is a new virus. They are still learning a lot about it as the disease progresses, as the pandemic evolves. So we need to follow those CDC guidelines regarding health and safety, both in social distancing, in terms of wearing face masks, in terms of travel restrictions right now, which are the preeminent guidance that we have locally. So, you know, again, as we've said, it is a evolving situation, but I think what becomes paramount is to recognize that those CDC and health guidelines are what we need to be looking at no matter what the activity may be.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to say that we have answered the questions that on the log here, and the remaining questions that are here or comments that are here, we will be able to download this log of questions, and we'll make sure, particularly related to cookie and product program, there's a number of specific questions and comments and very specific things related to particular debt forms and so on and so forth, that we will put together and make sure that our VSCs are in touch with troop leaders and with service unit leads to make sure that this information is getting out to folks to answer these questions. The other questions and comments related to camp and properties and what the board and the property committee's obligation is in terms of evaluating all of this information. We'll make sure that the dialogue in this in the question log here is shared with property committee so that that's factored into the times that they next get together. It's important information, but I think it's something the property committee at this point really needs to be able to address and then respond to as a committee. Janet, Deb, Kathy, is there anything else you'd like to share at this point, or some closing remarks before we wrap it up?
Yeah. Hi, it's me. You're stuck with me?
Okay, well, with that, then I think that we will wrap it up for the evening. Again, this webinar recording will be on the website. We'll post it out there under our delegate page, and we'll make sure that everyone's available there in case you'd like to listen to for the presentation and watch the PowerPoint presentation as well. We thank everyone for taking the time this evening to be on the call and to pose your questions and to be with us this evening. Thank you. Janet, if there's anything else you'd like to say, I'll let you wrap up.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Was trying to find my unmute button. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for your patience as we moved through this virtual meeting. Thank you to Amy and all the behind-the-scenes people who are making the question log happen for us and making slides move. I really appreciate very specifically all of the efforts that are being done by our volunteers to keep our girls engaged, to keep them healthy and safe. Please be safe and be well, and I look forward to the next time when we can actually gather together. Good night, everyone.
Just quiet. Go on, bud.